Hi, everybody. My name is Mia Delve. I'm the curator and program manager at A Space Arts, and we are a charity based in Southampton. We've been running for about 25 years now, mostly running artist development projects. So we own, or we run rather, some artist studios called the Arches. We also have a graduate programme called RIPE, through which we support graduate artists in Southampton from Winchester School of Arts and Solent University. We also have God's House Tower, which is our headline venue. And that's the venue that I want to talk to you about today as part of this information session. So I'm here to talk to you about the Deep Time Climate Commission open call that we have advertising at the moment. We have one more week left for artists to apply. So the deadline is the 21st of July. As I said, the commission will accumulate in an exhibition that takes place at God's House Tower, which is a medieval monument in the Old Town in Southampton. And I'll come on to a little bit more about God's House Tower as a venue and as an exhibition space later. I just wanted to say first up that this was intended to be a recorded Zoom session, which we held last week, and we invited artists to join that. We also had Dr. Gordon Inglis with us on that call to talk about his research, which is part of the brief for this commission. Unfortunately, the Zoom recording isn't around. I'm not sure what happened. I think we had some technical problems with our Zoom account. It either got deleted or some kind of ghost in the system. We can't find the recording, unfortunately. So I'm just hopping on this Zoom call to re-record my bit of the session. Gordon is unfortunately on holiday this week, so he won't be able to join me, but I can give a summary of what he spoke about from the last session. We've got a kind of, summarised version of his sort of section. So when we get to his bit, I will read out a description of what he said, and I'm sure he'll be happy to answer any questions you might have. If you want to hear from him directly, and if you're watching this video now, please do just reach out, get in touch with me, and I can forward on any questions you have for him to him. I'm also happy to do phone calls, Zooms, one-to-ones with artists. If you'd like to chat to me more after watching this session, then please do get in touch. So I'm going to share my screen. So here is the brief for the Deep Time Climate Commission at God's House Tower. We start with the contents page, which just looks over all of the information that's in this document, which I'm going to skip over for now. There's an opportunity summary, which gives you a little bit of an intro. It talks about the fee and sort of like deadline and headline information that you need on that first page. My contact details are here, so my email address and my phone number. You're really welcome to email me or give me a call or arrange a call with me, and you can WhatsApp me too, and you can also send me voice notes if you wish to get in touch that way. There's a note there just to say that this opportunity is open to artists based in the UK or Ireland only, just because of budget restrictions, really. We have opened up commissions to international artists before, but it's been a bit of a struggle to make it work within the budget that we have available in terms of travel and transport, and also in line with our climate action policy to kind of keep travel to a minimum. It's open, as I said, it's open to artists based in the UK or Ireland. So the brief. So this brief kind of starts by mentioning God's House Tower and the sort of oldest part of the building, which dates from 1189. Usually we commission artists to respond to the building's history. So we usually don't go any further back in time than sort of like 1100s, but this commission is different. We're looking beyond the building, and we're kind of thinking about the location of God's House Tower, before it was even built. So thinking about the environment, thinking about the landscape surrounding the building, and how it's changed over the years, and how it's changed over the thousands and the millions of years. So there's a bit in here about what the landscape would have looked like, so 56 million years ago. It was kind of quite lush, tropical environment, a bit like Florida's Everglades. And then 21,000 years ago, it was kind of really cold, and it was kind of the ice age, and there's mammoths and reindeer and wild horse. So there's kind of a little bit of a scene there, to kind of, a little bit of an image description to set the scene. And we're really interested in an artist who wants to kind of look back into this kind of deep time to consider where we are now. So that is what Gordon's research is all about. So we're thinking about past times to kind of inform our approach to dealing with the kind of current climate emergency. So there's a little bit in there about Gordon's research, which I'll speak to a little bit more later. And there's also just a section here talking about, ace-based arts and our kind of perspective and our responsibility as a cultural organisation to commission work that responds to ideas around the climate. I think that art has a really valuable role to play in discussions around the climate, particularly asking audiences to kind of connect with the issues. I think that sometimes a work of art can sort of be that kind of emotional bridge, and kind of allow people a different route into these issues. Sometimes I think if people are looking at graphs and statistics and things like that, it can be quite difficult to kind of put themselves into the picture and imagine what the kind of climate emergency has to do with them. And I think that art can do that for people. It can really put themselves in the picture and really kind of hopefully raise awareness about the issue in order to kind of encourage action. So there's a bit in there about that. And we also kind of recognise that global warming sort of affects people in the global south more than people in the global north, and particularly marginalised communities, and socially, politically, and economically, it's kind of disproportionate. So we are interested in applications from people who are looking to address those issues, and artists who are kind of underrepresented in current climate conversations. We're also interested in socially engaged projects, but it's definitely not it's not something we're particularly looking for. I think we're interested in artists with all sorts of different practices, but if you do have a socially engaged project in mind, we'd be interested in commissioning one, because we're kind of recognizing this need for sort of collective and collaborative approaches to climate action. If your practice is not kind of socially engaged, we can also sort of look to do some of that work while the exhibition is on. So we can also work with the artist to host sort of public-facing events, workshops, things like that, in order to bring audiences in that way, not during the project, but once the exhibition is installed. Having said that, we sort of recognise that it's really important to remain open-minded about all of this, and we're kind of really excited to hear from artists who have new perspectives, ideas, and interpretations of our well-loved sites and stories. It's one of my favourite things about this job is this kind of stage, and receiving proposals from artists. Unexpected proposals and unexpected ideas that kind of encourage us all to kind of rethink things and see things from a different perspective. So we are super open-minded at this stage. There's a link here to a virtual tour of God's House Tower. I'd really encourage you to have a look around. through that link if you haven't been to GHT. It's a really unique building, and the spaces are, yeah, very interesting and connected in all sorts of ways. So I think, aside from looking at some photographs of the building, I think following the sort of visitor route through that virtual tour is a really beneficial thing to do. The budget, so £7,000 available for this commission, and we'd expect to see at least £2,000 as an artist fee included. We're flexible about payment plans, and that will be discussed with the artist once we've commissioned somebody. I guess just to say as well that at this stage we're only looking for expressions of interest, so there's no need to provide us with any kind of budget breakdown at this stage. We're just looking to hear about your ideas. There'll be another stage, which I'll talk about in a moment, where we will ask for breakdowns of budgets and timelines and things like that. Access fund. So we have an access fund available that's kind of shared across the organisation. It's not huge, but there is money there to support artists with additional needs. Use of this budget will be agreed with the shortlisted artists once we're through to the next stage, but I just wanted to put it in there so that people are aware that there is funding available if you need it in the next stage of the commissioning process. So number 5, how to apply. As I said, we're looking for expressions of interest only, and your expression of interest should include either 500 words or less if written, or 3 minutes or less if recorded. So we'll accept written and recorded applications. And we want that application to address these 3 points. So briefly outline your practice and how you feel it relates to God's House Tower and this brief. What about this opportunity interests you? So that's kind of speaking maybe in particular more to the brief and Gordon's research, and what about that kind of drew you in. Include an outline of your idea for a new work, and this does not have to be detailed. So we would like descriptions to be succinct and clear and in accessible language. We just need to kind of get a feel for what your idea is, and it doesn't have to, you don't have to go into detail about how it's going to pan out and what all the stages are, but I think it's kind of useful for us to imagine what might be the kind of exhibition at the end of the process. And I appreciate that with lots of artists, sometimes, the process dictates that outcome. And so it's hard at this stage to kind of see what that exhibition looks like. In that case, I'd encourage you to kind of, be kind of clear about what that process is and what outcomes, what the outcome kind of might be through going through that process. And we also ask here for a link to your website or a portfolio. And so I think sometimes if you can't be specific about what the outcome is going to be, then sometimes a link to your website or kind of examples of previous projects really helps to illustrate the kind of work that you make and what we might end up with in the space. So yeah, we'd like to see up to 8, at least 8, I think, images of recent works. An example of previous sort of projects or similar commissions, and they can be completed or in progress. So we're kind of open to applications from early career artists. We just need to see some examples of work realised, and that, as I said, that can be kind of something that you're currently working on or something that you've done before. So to submit your expression of interest, you can contact me, the curator and programme manager, by the 21st of July at 9 AM. Here's my details again, if you need them. And do reach out if you'd like to visit God's House Tower, or if you'd like to chat to me before you submit your application. I've put this date in here, but it's actually wrong. If you want to kind of ask me anything or set up a one-to-one, please just contact me ASAP. I think as long as it's sort of by Wednesday or Thursday this week, that should be fine. The only reason I wanted to flag that is that, obviously the deadline is now the 21st, Monday the 21st of July. So I won't be able to, reach out to people, set up any meetings or have conversations over the weekend. So it'll have to be Thursday, Friday this week, which means the sooner you can get in touch with me, the better, if you do have any questions. Online information sessions. So we've completed them. As I said at the beginning of the call, unfortunately, we don't have the recordings, but this should be, plenty of information for people watching on YouTube. Shortlisting and interviewing. So we aim to shortlist by the 3rd of August, and shortlisted artists will be informed and asked to develop their ideas further through full proposal. And each artist invited to develop a full proposal will be paid £250. At that point, we are looking for detailed budgets, timelines, and a plan for production. And I would also encourage people to come and visit us during that proposal development phase if you are shortlisted. And as I said, I'll let you know by Monday, the 3rd of August. We are looking to shortlist at least 2 artists to develop full proposals, perhaps even 3 or 4. It sort of depends what we get in this first expression of interest stage. So the timeline, the open call was announced on the 23rd of June. These are just, the information sessions listed. 21st of July at 9 AM is the deadline for expressions of interest. Shortlisted artists will be notified on the 28th of July. Thursday the 31st and Friday the 1st, I'll do some one-to-one meetings with the shortlisted artists. So that's an opportunity for anyone shortlisted for the next stage to talk about next steps and to kind of make sure that we're kind of clear about what we're asking for in the proposal. I'll also share some examples of previous successful proposal applications and videos. So hopefully that will be helpful to artists at that next stage. Then there's 3 weeks for, for proposal development period. So I'll be around to answer any questions during that time, and we encourage people to come and visit, but that is just a period of time for artists to work on their full proposals before the deadline on Monday the 18th of August at 9 AM. We're then going to host some interviews. So we'll do interviews on the 28th of August before we make our final selection on the 1st of September. And then we're into the production period. So September to March is the production period. And that includes a sort of research and development period ahead of production, where artists are encouraged to visit Gordon, go and have a look around his offices, his building, the lab that they have down at the National Oceanographic Centre, and develop the work with him and kind of in conversation with his research before making the work and installing it at God's House Tower on the 16th of March to the 19th of March. Then Friday the 20th of March 2026 is the launch event, followed by the exhibition period and then the evaluation in June. The brief is available in large formats. This video is also going to be uploaded to YouTube, but if anybody would benefit from a different format, then please do get in touch and I can supply alternative formats if needed. So Appendix 1, organisational overview. So I mentioned at the top of the call that A-Space has been running since 2000. And that we kind of work across a number of projects, including the Arches Artist Studios, the RIPE programme, as well as God's House Tower. And the artist development is at the heart of our projects. And it's kind of, the reason the organisation started, and it's sort of the golden thread in amongst our programmes and our various projects that we run. We're a national portfolio organisation, so funded by the Arts Council, and our exhibition programme at God's House Tower is funded by the National Lottery Heritage Fund. There's a bit in here about God's House Tower. The programme broadly looks to ask artists to interpret the building's history or the history of the Old Town and Southampton more broadly, we quite often focus on marginalised histories, marginalised stories, kind of conscious that the building has this sort of 700-year-old history that is mostly kind of dominated by, one perspective. But we're looking through the programme to broaden that and sort of speak to artists who are underrepresented in the history books. So yeah, we do that through various different programme strands and commissions, including our work around the climate. We also have anti-racism action plan. We have an anti-racism action plan and a climate action plan, as well as an accessibility action plan. They're all on our website. There's much more information there if you are interested in that work. You can go to our About Us section of our website and have a read about those. Short history. So this gives you an overview of the history of God's House Tower. As I mentioned, the earliest part of the building dates to 1189. The rest of the building was built over the next kind of couple of hundred years. The kind of use of the building as a defensive tower sort of happened after the French raid of 1338, which is when this part of the building was built, and this part was then built to connect the two parts up. So we have an exhibition in the tower, which is a permanent exhibition about the history of the building, and it tells the story of the gunners who were here, who worked in the defensive tower. And then in the late 1600s, the building was converted into a prison, which is kind of a particularly grisly part of the building's history. It was also a warehouse at one point, and it was a mortuary and all sorts of things since then. In 1960, it was converted into an archaeology museum, and it was run as an archaeology museum and owned by the council until 2011, when it shut. Struggling with this for various reasons. I think they were kind of struggling with this visitor numbers for all sorts of reasons. And in 2019, we reopened the building after a kind of 7 or 8 year period of fundraising and renovating. And now we are an arts and heritage venue. So we lease the building off the council, but the venue is run by by A Space Arts, as I've already mentioned. So current situation. So our programme kind of seeks to share and celebrate the city's heritage through retelling, reframing and reimagining local histories and celebrating diverse stories and perspectives. We have 8 members of staff on the A Space office team, along with kind of 9 to 10 front of house staff members who work in God's House Tower when we're open to keep the building running. And we also have a team of volunteers, as well as kind of links with lots of local sort of historians, researchers, artists, various kind of university departments. So there's quite a rich resource that we can offer artists in terms of those things. We also have a really large network of local artists. So we know lots of local artists through our studio provision and also through various projects that we've done over the years, as well as our graduate artists and local groups like the Zest Collective, who are based next door to God's House Tower. So yeah, lots of links to local artists if that's of interest to people applying for this commission. And then, spaces and considerations. So inside the building, we have lots of different spaces. As you come into the building, you enter into the cafe. So we have a cafe extension, a little library area, some toilets, a staff room, and all of that stuff on the ground floor. And then, as I said before, if you go up the tower, you can visit the heritage exhibition, which tells the history of the building across 4 floors, so 3 indoor floors and the rooftop as well, which kind of is a really rare view of the Old Town of Southampton, which is a space that we have used before for commissions. And then as you come out of the tower, you exit through the main gallery, which is the sort of, the main space that we're looking to commission work for. So the main gallery is a really bright, airy space. It's about 8 meters by 5 meters. It's got these beamed ceilings, which we can hang quite a lot from. Because it's a scheduled ancient monument, we can't use the walls and drill directly into the walls, but this has never really caused a problem. We have lots of workarounds, and it's quite exciting actually to curate exhibitions in the space that don't rely on wall space. You know, we have kind of structures that we can build for wall mounted work, and we also kind of quite often commission installation or sculptural things, all sorts of work, which you can actually have a look at if you go onto our website. So if you have a look on God's House Tower, you can click on the What's On section and have a look at past exhibitions. Some recent commissions that we've done that might be useful to look at. We did a Jane Austen exhibition back in sort of November, January, February time. We commissioned an artist called Jocelyn McGregor, and her exhibition, No Notion of Loving by Halves, is up on our website with some images of the space and the installation. We also commissioned Ian Giles to make a project called Everyone Involved last August, September, October. So it's probably worth having a look at that commission. It's a kind of example of where an artist has used just the main gallery. So Ian built an installation in the main gallery, and then we used the project space underneath the main gallery as a sort of contextual heritage exhibition about Southampton's queer stories, because Ian's work was kind of referencing LGBTQIA+ histories. So yeah, in the past we've had work that is in both spaces, so in the main gallery and the project space. Sometimes artists have used just the main gallery, and we've used the project space for a kind of contextual exhibition, as I just mentioned. We also in the past have had a sort of video guide installed in the project space that sort of sits alongside the main gallery commission. So there's all sorts of ways that we can use the two spaces that are available for this commission, which is the main gallery and the project space. The Crawford Room is our third exhibition space, but it won't be being used for this commission. It's a space that we try to keep free for private hires, including pop-up exhibitions that sometimes open at the same time as the commissioned work, but also for things like, meetings, events, weddings. So the Crawford Room is out of bounds for this commission, but the main gallery and the Barker Mill project space are the two spaces that we're looking to use for this show. There's also a possibility of hosting an artist in residence. So if you'd like to come and spend some time here, we can set that up. You'd be welcome to come and spend a bit of time essentially in the Crawford Room if it's free, or just in one of our studio spaces nearby. If you want to come and kind of immerse yourself in the building, or go and visit Gordon at the National Oceanographic Centre, then you can come and do that too. And there's another link there to the 3D virtual tour of God's House Tower, so do have a look at that. So this section is an introduction to Gordon's research, which I won't go into too much detail here because it's all here in the brief for you, but I will just have a quick look at the recap from our session last week. So Gordon discussed the concept of geological time and its relevance to understanding current climate change, emphasising that human-induced changes are occurring much faster than any natural processes in Earth's history. He expressed interest in connecting local environmental history with Southampton's past, including periods of ice ages and swampy conditions with alligators and palm trees. Gordon offered to provide access to university facilities and collections for further research. We had an artist who inquired about local geological resources and fossil collections, which are available at the university in a different department, a department that we actually recently worked with on an exhibition called Hidden in Stone. So we could kind of set you up with access to various collections through the university if you're interested in that. I think there's a couple of themes in here that Gordon was interested in. So thinking about time and also speed. So thinking about the past and then how it relates to the future and the kind of the speed at which the kind of climate change is happening. And Gordon just kind of reiterates here that we're kind of open to the medium and the practice. And he's really interested in something that responds directly to the location and to Southampton specifically. And there's lots more in here about various parts about his research and the kind of various different sort of environments that existed here over the last 56 million years. But I will leave you to have a read of that in your own time. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the call, please do get in touch if you'd like to speak to Gordon. Obviously, we've got a bit of a tight turnaround now before the deadline on Monday. But hopefully you've got enough information to put in an expression of interest. And then at the next stage, if you are shortlisted, we can definitely set up conversations between the artists and Gordon to kind of develop some of that understanding a bit further and make sure that the proposals are kind of, responding to the research. I think that's all for now. Apologies again for the missing Zoom recording, but I have been quite thorough in the session to go through pretty much exactly what I went through in the call last week. So you shouldn't be missing out on anything. But as I said, do get in touch if you have any questions or if you want to kind of, if there's anything you want me to reiterate or talk more about. Thank you for joining. Bye.